be. Stone trees. We're going in circles.
Because we've been here before. We're going in circles.
Just admit it. We're lost.
Let's face it, Mr. Frodo. We're lost.
Winter bloom nourished many of those trees from seed and sprout. Do not ask her to speak more of it.
Many of these trees were my friends. Creatures I had known from nut and acorn.
The number of recreated scenes and one-for-one lines in the Rings of Power that are pulled from the Lord of the Rings movies is astonishing. At first I thought the Rings of Power was trying to get me to feel nostalgic for the Lord of the Rings trilogy. Nothing inherently incriminating about that. But putting aside the script, which was chock full of language so bizarre, I hesitate to call it Shakespearean.
And the armor that ought to rest upon your shoulders weighs upon your soul.
As I waded further into the series and the repurposed scenes and dialogue continued to mount, a couple misunderstood themes had me start to wonder, was this created by AI?
You have proven your quality, Merdania.
Captain Faramir. You've shown your quality, sir. The very highest.
You would make me a tyrant.
I would make you a queen. Fair as the sea and the sun. Stronger than the foundations of the earth.
And you, my king. The Dark Lord.
In place of a Dark Lord, you would have a queen! Not dark, but beautiful and terrible as the dawn! Treacherous as the sea! Stronger than the foundations of the earth! All shall love me and despair!
It will take far more than a legion of your children to lay siege to it.
Did you really think I would attempt to challenge the might of Sauron with a single legion?
Even if it is breached, it would take a number beyond reckoning. Thousands to storm the keep.
Tens of thousands.
But, my lord, there is no such force.
Many that die deserve life. Some that live deserve death. Who are you to give it to them?
Many that live deserve death, and some that die deserve life. Can you give it to them, Frodo?
While I find these clips compelling, what's more intriguing to me is that there are several phrases or ideas that are completely misunderstood by the Rings of Power. The first and biggest example is the idea of the light of the Eldar is fading.
The blight upon this tree is but an outer manifestation of an inner reality. That the light of the Eldar, our light, is fading.
In the lore, similar phrases refer to the fact that the elves after the Second Age ceased creating anything new. They stopped innovating, instead fixated on preserving what they already had through the power of the 3 elven rings. The elves decided to enjoy what they created in Middle-earth, a place they loved so much. And through this time, elves continued to leave for Valinor, so their population as a whole on Middle-earth was at a steady decline. Naturally, their involvement in the affairs of Middle-earth lessened. They also probably subconsciously felt that their time in Middle-earth was ending, and the Age of Man was nigh at hand.
The time of the elves is over. My people are leaving these shores.
Their influence in Middle-earth began to wane. Their light began to fade, as their presence and influence lessened in Middle-earth. In the Lord of the Rings, either the books or the movies, they aren't dying or getting less powerful. But what's curious is that in the Rings of Power, that phrase is taken more literally. There's some mysterious evil that is poisoning the elves, causing their light to fade. More specifically, it's poisoning this specific tree in Lindon that apparently holds all the life force of the elves in Middle-earth. For if they continue to dwell in Middle-earth past when the last leaf on this tree falls, they will fade completely until they are bodiless spirits.
Our immortal souls will dwindle
into nothing, slowly diminishing, until we are but shadows.
The Lord of the Rings movies don't really even touch on this theme, but the closest we get is when Arwen chooses a mortal life, and Elrond says,
"The life of the Eldar is leaving you."
Then later, when Elrond is talking to Aragorn, he says she is dying. It sounds overly dramatic, but to Aragorn, he would know she chose a mortal life in order to be with him. It's interesting because it's believable to me that an AI wouldn't quite understand higher order ideas or language, and therefore would generate a more literal adaptation of the words based on what was available in the movies to pull from, which of course is what happened. The second theme I want to explore is the nature of the rings themselves. We see in Season 2 when more rings of power are created, every ring, even the elven rings, are depicted the same way the One Ring in the movies is depicted. The One Ring had such corruptive power due to Sauron's overwhelming influence, it could directly corrupt the bearer with the evil will of Sauron. The rings created in Rings of Power exhibit this similar direct corruptive influence on the bearer. But those rings in the lore weren't corruptive in the way the One Ring was. They were meant as a conduit through which the One Ring would channel its corruptive power from Sauron into the bearer. They would be the means through which Sauron would exert his power, enslaving the bearer and ultimately every race on Middle-earth. To me, it's easy to think an AI trained on the movies could again misinterpret what's written in favor for what's depicted in the movies, and replicate it in the show. There's a few other themes played out in the Rings of Power that aren't so much misunderstood as just played out beat for beat when the source material doesn't support it. First, the theme of a lost king coming back to his people.
One day, our true king will return.
Your people have no king, for you are him.
All hail to the true king of the Southlands.
In the Rings of Power, we have Halbrand going back to the Southlands as their lost king, just like Aragorn was the lost king of Gondor. Second, the idea of ringwraiths chasing hobbits. And lastly, an elf-human romance. I mean, Aragorn, Arwen, Arondir, Bronwyn, come on. Why these themes, though not particularly misunderstood in the same way the Light of the Eldar or the concept of the rings are, why they were included and recreated when there is no mention of them in the source material seems suspicious at best. Unfortunately, I couldn't cover every scene. I tried to include the ones I thought were most compelling. I do want to include a few honorable mentions.
There it is.
Are you sure?
Not entirely. There's a sweet smell on the air this way. When in doubt, Eleanor Brandyfoot. Always follow your nose.
It's that way.
He's remembered.
No, but the air doesn't smell so foul down here. If you doubt the Enoch, always follow your nose.
Deliatha o chythodron sifwyn, gwawais nelydd yn gwaith na gothrin. Ana eglaen I estu I tu liath o dyn, tir fina raw adar. Ride to them now. Meantime, I will ensure that Eregion's walls hold for one more night.
The defenses have to hold. They will hold.
Look to my coming. At first light on the 5th day. At dawn, look to the east.
The dwarves! The dwarves are coming! Look to the north!
The sun is rising. Look to my coming at first light on the 5th day. At dawn, look to the east.
Adohi!
With all this put together, the Rings of Power script may very well have been generated by AI.